When you're in a thrift shop, you probably see all kinds of unique kitchen tools that, at one time, were used for all kinds of different processes. An original tabletop cheese grater. You may think these items are past their prime, but we're gonna use them to make dinner. That is so cool. Today, we'll use old culinary tools to create new and delicious meals using ingredients sourced right here in central Pennsylvania. I'm Satch Mantz, and this is Thrift Shop Chef. Before I can start planning my meals, I have to find the tools I'll be using to prepare them. For that, we head to the Plaza Center in Bellefonte for some thrifting. So this looks pretty silly at first, but with a cast iron pan this size, this is absolutely ideal for frying eggs in. Cook a single egg in it, maybe over a campfire, maybe on your stove, and then right out, perfectly cooked egg. These are all cast iron, and cast iron is incredible to work with. The appeal of cast iron pans is they hold their heat for an incredibly long time and distribute the heat evenly and consistently. Most people immediately would see this rust and this pitting along the outside and inside as ruined. That is not the case. If you properly clean and heat and scrub these pans, this will become an indestructible nonstick pan. A cast iron pan like this is perfect for cooking different kinds of meats and starches. I'm thinking ribeye steaks and fingerling potatoes for our first meal. I believe this is an original green bean slicer that was used to French cut green beans. So basically what that means is that the green beans would be fed down through the top here to these blades on the back, and you basically turn this and it French cuts your green beans as you feed them into the top here. What a French cut green bean is that it's cut on an extreme bias. So if we pretend that this is green bean, it's gonna slice that tiny green bean very finely on an edge, giving you what they call a French cut green bean. Now that I have my green bean slicer, I'll need some green beans. And you can't get them any fresher than at the student farm at Penn State. Carissa Heine is a student volunteer at the farm.
So I came into Penn State as a major in nutritional sciences, which I'm graduating with a degree in nutritional sciences. I care a lot also about where the food comes from and how that impacts human health and then community health. We grow over 40 different varieties of vegetables, okra, cucumbers, a lot of squash, to 10 different varieties of tomatoes. You're investing time and energy into growing your own food, even if it's just your own pot of herbs on your front porch. You're gonna use it more because you put that time and love into it.
So for the show, we found an extremely cool green bean slicer.
Wow.
From I don't know when, but it's very old, and I've never seen anything like it.
What does it do?
It French cuts green beans.
Ooh.
But do you have any green beans here that we could try that out with?
Yeah, we do. We just planted a few weeks ago our bush beans, so they're flowering right now. So you should have green beans in a couple weeks.
In a couple of weeks, that should be perfect.
Yeah.
I really love what you guys are doing here.
Yeah, it's really fun and it's a beautiful place.
Oh, it is beautiful. I have my ingredients for my meal. Now, libations are in order. Let's see what's shaking at Big Springs Distillery. I'm here at Big Springs Distillery with the mixologist Brandon. We were just out at the thrift shop and we found a cast iron pan that we were going to make a steak dish in. So you have a signature cocktail that you would like to show us that's going to pair with the dish?
I do. I think it's going to go really well with your steak. Today we're going to be pairing a cocktail called the Scorn. We're going to be using 2 ounces of our white rye. The rye specifically has a lot of white tequila notes, but the wheat adds a smoothness to cocktails. 2 ounces of our white wheat. If you ever have an aged spirit and you think, wow, this is a really smooth whiskey, chances are it's a high percentage of the wheat. Fresh lime is really important in any cocktail you're making. 2 ounces fresh lime. We're gonna do a ½ ounce of orange syrup. We make all our syrups here fresh in house. We're using 0.75 ounces of rose syrup. I buy all our herbal products at a local Lamont store. The rose syrup is just simple syrup infused with rose petal and buds. Nice. And then the final product is our falernum. Again, this is a high proof allspice spirit. that really adds complexity to the cocktail that it needs. Final step is 4 cranks of fresh pepper. It's going to add a savory note that's going to complement really well with your steak.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to shaking a cocktail, the most important thing is shaking it well. You can never shake too much, so either until your arm hurts or until there's some frost in the glass.
Okay. Okay.
That's the scourge.
Awesome. Thank you. I assume we'll have to taste this
Yeah.
now. Cheers.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
I think it'll go really well with your steak.
That is going to go fantastic with the steak. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Delicious. So here we are out at my house in the woods, and for the dish that we're cooking today, I'm going to pick some of our fresh herbs that we have growing around, starting right here with rosemary and thyme. I love rosemary. It's still growing when you pick it. I'm going to take a couple smaller stems here. You don't need much. When you're picking your own fresh herbs from the garden, it puts your dish to a whole nother level. These are nasturtiums. Every part of this plant is edible. It's peppery and a little bit sweet. I love using them as garnish, and I will today. They're delicious. So here we are at my home kitchen today. Today's dish, a ribeye steak with roasted fingerling potatoes, a brown butter puree, and a vegetable medley using our first thrift shop find, which we previously cleaned and sterilized. Clamp it onto our table here, and then essentially it's awesome. It's so cool. You feed your green beans down in, so. So it's cutting our green beans into a confetti. And there you go. That's great. So next I'm going to do the same thing I did with the green beans to our square cut carrots. Oh, that is so cool. In the culinary world, this cut is called a paisan, and I wish I could spell that for you, but I cannot. But it's called a paisan. It's this diamond cut on a bias, which I couldn't do this with a knife, but this beautiful machine just did it for me. It did it for me. It was great, so I'm gonna keep doing that. With our green beans and carrots sliced, let's move on to the brown butter puree. Pour a glug of olive oil into a small pot, then add chopped onions and carrots. I want to sweat the onions. Sweating a vegetable, you're trying to pull the water from the inside out, but then you're condensing it. You're condensing all that flavor down. So the more water that you can pull out and condense the flavor down, the better it's going to be. Once our vegetables start giving off liquid, put them on the back burner while you begin browning your butter. Take a full stick of butter and put it in a saute pan on high heat. As it melts, stir constantly with a small whisk to avoid burning the butter. And by just moving this whisk back and forth, I'm keeping those fine particles from falling to the bottom and sticking. The key to knowing when brown butter is done, because you're gonna see little brown bits in there and you might be like, oh, it's done. But you want to brown it until you get a rich, nutty flavor, and that is crucial. So at this point, right now, you pull it off. Right there. And you can see on the bottom there's that brownness. It's going to continue browning as it's off the heat, so that's why I'm turning it off, taking it off the heat and setting it aside. Voila, brown butter. Add this in. Pour your brown butter into your pot with the sweated vegetables and blend with an immersion blender until you have a thick, creamy consistency. Set aside as we move on to the steak. The pro tip for this is that when you're making a meal, your steaks will have been in the refrigerator. And when a steak that's been in the refrigerator all day hits the pan, it's gonna cool, regardless of how amazing your pans are, it's gonna cool the pan down immediately. Pull your steaks out of the fridge about an hour before you're gonna cook them. That's gonna allow them to slowly come up towards room temperature, or as we say in the business, room them up. Since these are warming up, the salt is going to do the same thing to these steaks as it did to our carrots and onions. It's going to pull the liquids to the top, and when I flip this over into the pan, those liquids are going to form a crust on the outside of the steak. So that's how you get a nice crispy outside, and it's gonna help seal the juice on the inside. Season generously with salt and pepper, then set aside for 5 minutes while you start your potatoes. I've parboiled these potatoes to fork tenderness, allowing them to be quickly finished in the saute pan. Carefully mince your garlic as fine as you can. I have this super tiny little dice. So if you do it this way, you get a little bit more time to allow your garlic to cook without it losing all of its flavor immediately. So this pan, wow, the pan gets hot immediately. That's so cool. That's the best part of that cast iron. Potatoes love oil. They soak it right up. And you just lay them, just like that. Most importantly, I'm laying them with the cut side down. There's starch right here, and we're adding oil to it, and it's gonna get really crispy. And that's exactly what we want. We want to crank as much flavor into your potatoes as you possibly can. Season with salt and pepper, and let the potatoes continue to cook. Now is a good time to finely chop your rosemary. As the potatoes continue to sizzle, give them a few flips in the pan. And already you can see some of them are starting to get brown, which is great. That's exactly what we want. So this is the cast iron we got at the thrift shop. And as you saw earlier, it was caked in rust and old seasoning from whoever had used this before me. So what we did is we took it and we soaked it with oven cleaner. That got most of the crust off of it. And then we used vinegar and water to remove the rust. And if you saw the back of this, it looked like it was made of rust. So the fact that you can get it to this cleanliness and cook in it so easily is incredible. It makes any cast iron completely worth having. And actually, you can go to the website to check out how we did this in a little more detail. So we're gonna get this on the heat, get it heated up. Then we're gonna start our steaks. We're gonna take our steak with the largest fat cap on it, which is this guy, and we're gonna start fat cap down. Now what that's gonna do is it's gonna render some of the fat from this ribeye out into the pan, and it's gonna give us more oil to cook with essentially. So I'm gonna do that for all 3 of our steaks here. There we go. All right, face down. Face down. And face down, just like that. Keep the steaks on medium heat and add your garlic and rosemary to the potatoes. Right now, this whole room smells like garlic and rosemary from me adding this in. Those steaks are working hard. Here we go. Now that I've flipped our steaks over, I'm going to turn the heat down because the cast iron holds heat like no one's business. Once we flip our steaks, place the sliced green beans and carrots in a saute pan on high heat and add a tablespoon of butter. Pay attention, these cook quick. Already you can tell the carrots cooking quickly. The green beans are, they're popping for a second. So you don't want to cook it too hard. These have been on the heat for only about, less than a minute, and they're done. Our potatoes are done. Now we just have to finish the steak. Butter right in. That. Take your garlic and crush it like this. That's gonna open it up. You add that right on top of the butter. It's gonna roast itself here in the middle, so you'll have a nice fresh garlic flavor over top of your steaks, which is ideal. And there you have it. Now for my favorite part, plating. Take a dollop of your puree, using the back of your spoon, smear it across the plate. Just gonna arrange our potatoes on here. So we want the steak to be the centerpiece of our dish. And now we're gonna take our vegetables. Nice, proud steak right there. Right in the center. Paired with our Big Springs cocktail, it's time to dig in. Medium, just like we wanted. Delicious. Crispy crust, a little bit garlicky, a little rosemary left over. Wish you could taste it. For my second meal, I'm moving from turf to surf by cooking up some bacon-wrapped scallops. Great bacon is a key ingredient here, so I'm going to my favorite local pork purveyor, Hogs Galore, to talk to co-owner Garfield Mathis. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the background of this place?
Great. So we started farming in 1979 when my parents received the hog for their wedding present. Around 2000, we decided that we'd really like to find a better way to get our meat directly to the customers. And we built Hogs Galore in 2005, 2006, and opened up in spring of 2006. We do fresh cuts, we do hams, bacon, sausage, start to finish for all of those products. And we raise all the hogs in Julianne, which is about 15 minutes from Phillipsburg and also about 15 minutes from State College.
So we're going to be using some of your bacon for the bacon wrapped scallop part of our entree. Can you tell me more about the process of creating the bacon?
One of the primal is the bacon, the belly, the fresh belly. So you take that fresh belly, let it cure for about a day or two until it's ready to go. Then we hang the bellies, and then we smoke them with natural hickory, and it's a 14 to 16 hour process. So we'll start bacons here this afternoon, and they'll come out tomorrow morning at 7. Any type of pork product you can think of, we'll make it for you. We really think that gets our product out there into the most hands that we can.
Thank you. My friend and local chef, Harrison Schailey, tells me he has some thrift shop finds of his own, so he's invited me to prepare my bacon-wrapped scallops in his kitchen at Above the Valley Event Center. We're preparing bacon-wrapped scallops with braised lentils and baked multicolored carrots today.
Are those carrots organic? I notice when I get organic carrots, they're kind of this, they're always this small, this thin, but they're super sweet. This is should be a good carrot to work with.
Absolutely. For our braised lentils, we'll need 2 cups of lentils, 2 carrots, and 2 onions. Chef Harrison has a helpful tip for chopping your onions and peeling your carrots.
Peel off the outer shell. So we're gonna make a couple slices this way, and then we're gonna go 2 slices this way. This should give us the right size dice that we want. And then we're just gonna dice the onion. One trick I like to show people when you're peeling your carrot is the blade. There's 2 blades on these.
Okay.
So you can go up and down, you can peel the carrot really fast.
Do you want to show us how to do that, actually?
Sure, you just take it and you're just going up and down like this. It's just a little simple thing, but you know, when your friends are over and you're doing it, they're like, wow, look at that.
That was so quick. Place the chopped onions and carrots along with some oil in a cast iron pan over medium heat and let them start to sweat. We are still using our thrift shop cast iron because it's just that good. At this point, we're going to add our red wine vinegar, and it'll kick up a little bit. Next, we add our lentils and stir to evenly coat them. Then we pour in our chicken broth. Let that simmer as you start prepping your multicolored carrots. Chef Harrison shows us how to save time when using time.
What we do is you take it back the way it grows and just pull off the leaves. You don't want the stems. He's probably going to cook the stems in there with the scallops, right? That's your plan?
Absolutely.
All right. So we're just going to take some of this off. Is this also going into the lentil dish?
It is, yes.
Okay, good.
Finely chop the thyme and place your carrots in boiling water for 5 minutes to blanch them. As soon as your timer goes off, submerge them in ice water to prevent them from cooking further.
My question is, how long did it take to recondition that pan? How bad was it?
It was quite bad, actually. It took some time.
Yeah.
And
A little scrubbing, a little elbow grease.
scrubbing and elbow grease. On to our bacon-wrapped scallops. I start prepping the bacon while Chef handles the scallops.
This is what connects to the shell in the scallop. So you take those off. When it comes to scallops, you want to make sure you don't get a frozen scallop. Because sometimes what they do with their frozen scallops, they add water to them, they add moisture to them. And then when you go to saute them, that moisture comes out and you don't get that caramelized color that you want. And you can smell a good scallop. It smells like the sea. It smells salty, and that's a good way to check. So these scallops are all cleaned up and ready to go.
Excellent.
Wow, that's really good looking bacon.
Yeah, this is the best. It's got, you can see the smoke line on the outside, the different muscles, and the heavy layers of fat in the center. It's almost a shame to change how this looks, but for the dish that we're preparing today,
Right.
it's unfortunately
You don't want the
necessary.
scallop to be hidden too much into the bacon.
Exactly.
Well, the bacon eaters may think differently.
The bacon eaters might think differently. You're absolutely right. We want the bacon to be the same width as our scallops, so measure and slice accordingly.
Hogs Galore, that is really good bacon. We use that at Harrison's all the time. I get one that's a little more smoky though. I pre-cook the bacon a little bit. So it's kind of interesting to see what you're going to do, because it seemed whenever I didn't pre-cook it, I couldn't get it all the way brown as I wanted to.
Okay.
But with the cast iron pan, we may see something a little different. We'll see how that works.
I think we might. We're going to skewer the very end of our bacon here. So this is going to start what I call the figure 8.
Notice how I used the not the thin side, but the wide side of the scallop.
Exactly. Because this is the part that's going to be in the pan. I'm going to bring it to the top, and skewer just like that. So that is one bacon wrapped scallop right there. This was still impressive, friends. Your friends are going to love this.
For sure. You're going to want to eat a few of them.
You're going to need to make quite more than we're making today. Put the second scallop on the skewer and wrap the remaining piece of bacon around it to form a figure 8 around both
And
scallops.
here we are. This is our first bacon wrapped scallop ready for the pan.
So the tuck is going to keep that from pulling away when you sear it?
It should.
Okay.
It should.
Okay.
Chef, do you want to try to do the second one?
Oh, sure. Okay.
While he wraps his scallops, I take a look at the lentils. Most of the liquid has been absorbed, which is exactly what we're looking for.
I think he took the nicer scallop to start. All right.
Beautiful, Chef.
There we go. Let's give it a try.
Let's give it a taste.
I think a little more salt.
I think it needs a little more salt too.
Yeah.
It's got a nice, there's a little,
All right, I can taste the thyme too at the end.
yeah, that's
good.
nice.
I'm using a second cast iron pan for the bacon wrapped scallops. I start by warming up the pan over high heat.
So before it gets too hot, we want to put our bacon down so that it begins to render out slowly, and as it heats it up, it's going to make it more crispy. So, just like that. Tuck our flap in.
You can hear the pan's hot. You got
Yeah.
the sizzle. Once you get that caramelized, you get that little bit of almost like a little gap there, then you can turn them.
Exactly.
That's what you have to teach to saute people, that little technique.
That's
There's a little secret for you guys at home. Don't turn them until they're really easy, and then they'll flip right over.
perfect. So next we're going to prepare our carrots while the scallops are rendering here. And we have these extremely cool pans that you found. Can you tell me more about these?
Well, these pans, I bought these at a used restaurant supply place in Harrisburg. Now, the trick to these pans, these are iron just like these pans, but they're pounded out with a mallet. These are French saute pans. And what happens with me is if you're not a good sauteer, these are not the pans for you.
Okay.
Because they get really, really hot really fast.
Start by adding a heavy glug of olive oil to the pan.
We're going to add our carrots to it. Just a little bit of salt and pepper. And you just want to toss your carrots around a little bit just so that they have an even coating of fat over them. That's going to allow them to cook more consistently. And in the oven we go. And it's important now, and I'm not looking at the scallops, but I can hear that they're starting to sear. You can hear that popping sound, you can hear that snapping. That's good, you want that. And that means they're getting a nice color on
Do we sear both sides of them?
Absolutely. So now that the pan's heating up, look at this. This is the beauty of cast iron. The outside of the pan is ripping hot, but the middle here is controlled just how we want it to. So now they're not ready yet. They're not coming free. Oh, there we go. So that's what we're looking for right there. The scallop is nearly cooked, but not cooked through, and it's got a nice color on the outside of it. Looks like one of our scallops twisted around a little bit. That's fine. That's okay.
Yeah, you fixed it. That's good now. That'll be the bottom scallop.
What's that?
That's the bottom scallop.
That's the bottom, exactly. This is how chefs think. This is how we cook.
You're going to add more calories to this dish, aren't you?
I am going to add more calories to this dish. And we're just going to let that brown in the pan here. And it's going to soak up all that good flavor from the pan. And we didn't use any aromatics, any salt, any pepper for this. So what I do is in our pan still hot, we take our thyme, put the thyme in there. What that's going to do, like with the carrots,
You're gonna hear that snapping and popping sound. That's the oils in the thyme expressing themselves. And now, when I cook any proteins, I like to baste them. So you take the butter that you've just ground up right over the top, just like this. One thing that I love about plating up is you want to get them tall. You want your plate to be tall and have very vivid and distinct colors.
You can see how brown we're down here with the lentils, so a little color is definitely what you want.
Absolutely. It looks good. Now let's see how it tastes.
Yeah, that works out really good. I like the hint of thyme at the end there. Perfect.
Adds a little bit of herbaceousness to the end. Thank you very much, Chef.
Oh, you're welcome.
This has been
Thanks
such
for
a pleasure.
having me.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we'll see you soon.
Okay, great.
Thanks to everyone who helped me put these 2 meals together. Until next time, I'm Satch Mantz, your thrift shop chef.
Action.
Some ancient coffee grounds in it. We can edit that.
Got it.
Yeah. See, I think we could just shoot it all in this. It's a peanut butter maker. We'd have to be nuts not to get this. Yeah, cut. Yeah, nah, sorry. I'm all scattered now.
Yeah,
Thursday through
come
Sunday.
back anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can just cut that all together. I'm kidding.
This is good. This is fun.
Right, yeah, this is what we're doing. Yeah, cool. How we doing, Dad? This is gonna be another pause here.
Yeah.
Drop the mic.